welcome to our very first show of Two Blondes and us dropping our bombshells. I'm Nancy Addison, and this is Laurel Elion, and we are so excited about starting this channel and being able to share information with y'all that we think is valuable and important and has made our lives more fulfilling, and we're hoping that you will find it that way as well. And today, we decided we would start with the subject on words and the power of words and how when we speak, it's kind of like, and I can't remember who I heard this from, but it was like, it's like you're saying a spell. And so you know how when you say certain things, somehow it tends to manifest itself. So Laurel and I were discussing this the other day, and we thought this would be a really great subject to discuss and share with y'all. And I was listening to our Wayne Steiger one day, and he was doing a show on languages and the power of different things that we say. And one of the things that he was saying is that bless, how we always say to bless people, it's actually to be less. And I thought, that really is kind of an interesting thing to look at that. And what really started me on the road to this was many years ago, I read a book called It's Not What You Say, It's What People Hear. And it's by Frank Luntz, Luntz. And I thought it was such a wonderful book because what we say and how we mean it is not always accepted by the other person in the same way. And it may be because they have a different background or they're thinking about different things, or maybe that language you're talking to them in is not their first language and they only know it through learning it in a translation. And so I really loved this book, and I thought about how certain words we use are so important. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I remember just waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, oh my heavens, I, as a woman in the U.S., Laurel's in Canada, and I'm in Costa Rica right now, but I have had this terrible habit, and I don't know if I was taught to do this when I was young. And Laurel, you tell me if this is the same with you, but I was taught to really say I'm sorry for everything. And it was like almost a habit of anytime anything happened, I would say that. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, what am I telling the universe by saying that? And so since then, I've really tried not to say that anymore. And instead, I either finish the sentence or I use a different term, like I apologize for bumping into you, or whatever it may be. Or if somebody tells you a sad story, frequently I would say I'm sorry to them. And now I always make sure I finish that sentence and say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that about what happened or something, but I've really tried to cut that phrase out of my language. Sorry.
Is that fly still following you? So,
what do you think about that, Laurel?
Yes. The language is a subject so near and dear to my heart, and I agree with you totally. We apologize, and it brings that energy of being less than, that we've done something wrong, and often it's accidental. One of my teachers says we're no more on time, we're in time, so that you're in flow. And years ago, my first spiritual teacher really was passionate about language, and since then I've had several teachers who this is their profession, part of what they do, educating in languages, but the meaning of the root of the language. Herman, my psychosomatic therapy teacher and brilliant mind, would say, when you believe it, you will be living it. Or the word retire. He says, I will never retire. Why would I want to be tired again? And I've just become so passionate around how the language affects our lives and affects conversations, affects how people speak to you. So the um, uh, the work that I do with psychosomatic therapy and in the retreats that I teach, we do a lot around the languaging. Think about how people just are so busy, and how every time we say, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, you continue to manifest that in your lives. And look what's happening around us. And when you're busy and you're eating, what it is you're taking in. So if you've ever done a silent retreat, that was like so eye-opening for myself, and that's part of what I have people experience when we're in retreats too. So the names, this has been a big one, is the power of your name, and each of the letters in your name have a frequency. They carry a frequency, and that affects your experience. The musical, the Sound of Music. Why was, like, there's so many in our generations since we were born that didn't get to experience that, and that really was so powerful in how the activation of the energy centers in our body were affected by watching that movie and singing that songs. And I see there's a revival of the Sound of Music, and this is huge in theaters, and how people are feeling so joyful. And what's happening in our language today, how they're rewriting the dictionary because the words have different meanings, and there's something very different that's happening in our world today because of our language. So I totally agree with you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I just have really been carefully crafting what I say since I've really been concentrating on this, and really thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it, so that I don't manifest something I don't want. So I think something I've been doing is really crafting the language so that it's true, but yet it's something that I truly want in my life, and not something that I want to avoid.
Now, those of you watching may or may not agree with what we're saying, but we really challenge you to look at this in your life, because I often say it's like gravity or air, oxygen. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it's not actually happening. Because as Nancy said, we are crafting spells with the words that we speak. I have friends from other cultures that still today, they will have more than one name, because their birth name, the first time my girlfriend told me this, she says, well, no, that's not my real name. If you knew my real name, you might have power over me. And she was very serious about that. And it's true. In times gone by, the court gestures were, the king would, commission the court jesters to they weren't just fools, they were crafting spells over, the court. And it's like they would want an experience to be happening, or a certain ambience in the court. So the court jesters would be, singing their minstrel songs based on what it is that they wanted that experience to happen. So there's a lot that you can put into the language. That fly is pretty powerful. He's chasing you around. So when you were born, the name that you were born into, this is a big one for people. What name do you go by today? Have you abbreviated it? Have you taken Robert and turned it into Bob? Like have you turned Kate or Catherine into Kate? And how does that feel when you speak those words? It changes a feeling. So there's actually energy that you've eliminated from your everyday experience. So for myself, I was never called by my birth name. It just, and in fact, when I was earlier, I was teased about it. And today, it's a totally different experience. I've stepped into my name, Laurel, but I was always called Lori. Lori, like even how that sounds. And the first way that I started changing it was on my bank account. One of my spiritual teachers said to me, she said, if you don't go by your birth name, how can the universe find you with your abundance? And I thought, oh, it's kind of interesting. It still took me some time, to kind of get to that place of, and it's been an interesting process. It's been about 5 years, only 5 years that I've gone by my name, that the things that I still continue to see change in my life. When a woman takes their husband's name, that in itself, there can be a whole shift in your life around it. Do you take your husband's name? Why do you? Why wouldn't you? There's some really interesting things going on out there. How about people who are divorced and still go by their former husband's name? Or there's men that take, I do know people who the man took the woman's family name. And you see the roles that those people play in that partnership. And this isn't about judgment. It's about awareness and about balance. What you can manifest in your life. It's a choice. It's a really powerful choice that you give yourself, or you deny yourself, right? You want to? I know I'm putting you on the spot with this, Nancy. Do you want to share your experience with your name?
I'm gonna have to go in and get my earbuds because it's pouring rain now and it's raining here. So excuse me 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, I'll cover for Nancy while she's God. And that's kind of how life in Costa Rica is. It'll be sunny and clear, and then all of a sudden it's torrential downpour. So what about yourself? Think about the names that are how you sign your name. Do you abbreviate it? And just experiment with that. How that could change maybe how people treat you when you're in a business setting. Here's a good one. What people call you as you're growing up and in your family, and maybe in your workplace, you go by that name, and then you come home to be with the family, and it goes back to that name that you've been called all your childhood. And the rift that can happen if you insist on being called, I'll just use the name Robert, for example. No, I go by Robert, but everyone says, you're Bob. You'll always be Bob to us, or Joni, or Cindy, rather than Cynthia or Kate, or like those are very regal names, and they command a lot of power. But if you allow yourself to be called by less than, now, and that might bring up a lot of emotional issues. So think about that, how that makes you feel. And is it you or is it them? So the potential to change your life just by your name and the words that you speak. Yeah, so it's coming down there in Costa Rica, Nancy. I told him it could be sunny and then all of a sudden torrential flooding. You've lost bridges, you've lost roads.
But yes, it's quite a downpour. I hope you can hear me now. And,
when I was with you in Costa Rica, there had been a lot of downpours, and because I was there after the rainy season, and then we came into the rainy season, and I know where I was staying, the rain started coming, and the hill started coming down onto the road, and I watched as two banana trees went plunk on the road, and I thought, I was so glad I was leaving the next day. So
yes, I mean it's really quite remarkable. I'm up in the mountains, and the roads here, a few of them, they're they're very narrow, and they will be backed by a side of a mountain, and they're frequently closed because there has been a mudslide or rocks or things that come down. So that's just part of this adventure I'm having this summer.
So what else do you have to say about the power of language? I changed, I used to finish my emails with many blessings, and I've changed it to living in bliss because of what you were saying, because I believe it to be true. I believe that we can create, change our experience that we're having in a day if we're having a bad mood by changing the words and lifting ourselves up, but also lifting others up. I have actually abruptly left conversations because people were talking so negatively. I actually find that it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge to hang out with me because it was an old pattern of falling into the negative conversations that I still work on today. Those negative conversations held me in a place of being less than in all areas of my life. I felt depressed. I was lonely. Because what happens is the pity party, right? So our words, I will change that around. As a coach, a mentor, I will very abruptly switch people out of that place. And it used to be something that I thought, oh, I might offend them. And now it's like, oh, please be offended if that's what it takes to get your attention.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that is critical, and truly, when I work holistically with people, body, mind, spirit, and we are what we live and what we say. And I think those words are critically important to focus on. And I will sometimes get clients who come in and it's like, I am this, I am this, I am this. And I'm like, okay, let's rephrase that, change that story that keeps going on in your head and rephrase this. Don't own that, don't own that disease or condition that the doctor has given you. And I really disagree with a lot of ways that medical professionals talk to their clients. Now, I'll never forget my father when he got cancer, and this was one of the reasons I started doing what I do. But he had gotten cancer, and the doctor told him, you have 4 months to live. Well, he died almost to that day. I mean, it was like he took that in, and he that's what he believed. And I believe what we tell ourselves is what we live. And so as I've started appreciating the power of what we speak, I understand that there are a lot of people who just like mindlessly talk and chatter. And I think we need to use our words wisely and really think about what is important to say. Is this going to make my life or my friends or the people who are listening, is it going to make their lives better? Is it going to lift them up? Or if I say this to this person, is it going to help anything? Is it going to change the situation, or is it just going to bring them down? And so I think, really thinking through your intentions. I think intentions are incredibly important. And when we speak from the heart and we speak with love and we speak with the thought that what we want to create in our life, that's how we should direct our words. And that's something I've really tried to put into practice. And I have to admit, in my Spanish class last week, the teacher had given us some really negative phrases to translate. And I found it very difficult to translate these sentences. I didn't want to say that my cat was sick. I wanted to say my cat was feeling great. I don't have a cat right now. I had a squirrel, but...
Well, I love that you changed that around and you went to class and said, I didn't do the homework, but this is what I did.
And, my teacher was fine with that, but it was really interesting because there was a lady in there who is very much, I guess, a lady who always, she uses bad language, for one thing, which I always find insulting when people use bad language around me. But she always really focuses on negative things. And you see that in her conversation all the time. Well, she did not like the fact that I had changed my Spanish homework and written positive phrases. And I got some really mean emails from her the next day that really upset me. And she was just like, well, because she wanted me to follow the rules. Well, I'm a renegade, and I think for myself, and I am not going to follow rules that I think are against what I believe in.
Well, I think like what you're talking about too is that pity party that we fall into, and it's like the one up. You got a one up. Yeah, but I've got this and this, and we see this a lot with women because, and here's what I've observed over the years, and myself included. I come from a family of women. They're, the women get together and they one up each other. And often women don't feel heard by the men in their life. And part of that I've come to understand is, women and men, they are very different in how they process. Men is like, okay, put it in front of me, tell me, get to the point, blah, blah, blah. And women are like, no, it's how I feel. Men are like, to the point. Women are like, but this is how I feel. And so we do, when there's a quiet space, we feel like we have to fill it. And that mindless chatter, it goes on and on. One thing that I really value about our friendship, Nancy, is that we talk about this and we pull each other out of that place of, okay, that's enough of that. And, I love you too much to not do it. And that's how you and I have become. And it's a huge evolution. It took us how many years in our life to get to this place? And it's good. You probably were told younger in life, like I was, that, oh, you just say what's on your mind. And I grew up thinking that was a bad thing. And now today it's like, hey, we have to be able to, like you say, speak our truth. And what is our truth? Our truth often is more than what other people can handle. And it doesn't mean that what I've learned is that often speaking our truth has more to do with what we don't feel we have to say. That you're not going to change that person in that moment, but you have the choice to not be there. And that's changed my experience in who I'm around. That's why someone like yourself, like you, are in my life, because I really value those deep conversations. That's to me, that's what's made life more meaningful, is cutting the crap, letting go of all of that negative stuff. And it's not to say you and I don't fall into that stuff. We have our stuff still, but we're working to pull ourselves out of that so we don't hover in those lower levels, those lower vibrations. Really, that's what happens, getting stuck down there in wallowing in it. That's where illness, disease, disorder comes into our lives, and more negative people. So when you raise your vibration up, which the vowel sounds do, it activates those energy centers in your body. I see it as a yoga teacher. I have all of my yoga students have a Om practice, because that frequency opens up the channels and it changes things. It shifts your energy, opens up the channels for bringing in higher frequencies and higher frequency people. Right?
Yes. And really and truly, I so agree with what you say, and I cherish those times that we can share with each other. And the studies show people live longer and they're happier when they have someone, a soul sister, or soul brother, soulmate, that they can share their deep and special thoughts with. And, I know I share a lot of things with you that I wouldn't necessarily share with other people, because you understand me a lot better than a lot of people do. But that was one of the reasons we decided to do this show and share it with y'all, because, we love helping others and being connected and finding our tribe out there that can associate with us and what we're doing. And even though we may be coming to you from all different places in the world, we are so connected. And I really, truly believe that we are all connected. We are this web of life, and that we have a mass consciousness. And as we can raise that vibration, it does lift you out of different lower energies that can bring dis-ease to you. And like just this week, I had to take my squirrel that I had rehabbed. The dogs had dragged this squirrel into the yard, and he had puncture wounds, and I didn't think he was going to make it. And I've had him about a month because I didn't know what to do with him, and he was surviving and thriving and became my best buddy. But I had to take him to a wildlife sanctuary the other day, and if it hadn't been for Laurel being my soul sister buddy to understand how sad I was, that she helped me work through that. And having that connection with someone, you need that in your life. We need this connectiveness in our lives and the support, but it needs to be a positive support. I had some people in my life before who literally used to kick me under the table when I talked and I didn't say what they wanted me to say. Well, you've got to get those people out of your life, or you're going to walk around with bruises all over your legs all the time, which I did for a long time. But you have to be able to speak your truth. And I think in today's age where there's so much going on, and a lot of it is against what I think people want, we really do have to let our voice be heard, and we need it to speak with integrity and to also come from the heart, because otherwise I think when you don't say something, people think you don't care and that it doesn't matter to you. And there are a lot of things that I think really do matter to all of us. And the state of our environment, the peace in the world, having people have happy, healthy lives and not be in human traffic situations. We need to be strong and speak our truth, but we do need to choose our words wisely and speak with integrity and speak from the heart and speak in a positive way so that we can help make the changes for the better and not make the matters worse. So, I think we're living in a critical time right now, and people need to connect. Some of those people that I've known in my past, they will leave their TVs on in their house all the time. And it's just this mindless chatter and brainwashing from those commercials and those pharmaceutical ads constantly bombarding their mind. And I have to admit, there was a time in my life when I was, I think in my 30s or something, when I was by myself, and I thought it kept me company. But as I've really been studying this, and I haven't had a TV now for a very long time, and I don't have one here in Costa Rica, but what things are coming into us, into our brains, into our minds, it affects us. And I think I read a statistic that people who watch a pharmaceutical ad, for instance, on MS drugs, multiple sclerosis drugs, they're 40% more apt to go to their doctor and say, I think I have multiple sclerosis. And so we're very much influenced by what we hear and what is coming into our lives. And so I think we also have to protect our environment from this negativity and make our space sacred and make our lives surrounded with this sacredness. And one of the things that I've been trying to do more and more here in Costa Rica is get off the grid, get away from all of this news and all this impact, and get in a place of peace and shift my thoughts. And so as I've been struggling with the sadness of taking little Willie to the sanctuary and not having his company here, I've had to really work on changing my thoughts. You can dwell on certain things until every time you have a thought, you make a connection in your brain. And when you think that thought again, it makes another connection. And when you think it again, it makes another. Before you know it, you've got this highway connection in your brain. And it may be something that's sad. It may be a trauma. It may be something not as positive as you'd like. And as long as you do that, your brain, it's going to pull back onto those thoughts. So you need to actually get out, shift your energy, put your mind on new things, learn new things, concentrate on different things. And as you build those connections, the old ones will fall away. And so, it's one of the things
it's really important for people to hear that. I totally agree. And I'd like to challenge people watching that they find new ways, because it's the patterns that you're talking about. Drive to work a new way. If you take a bus, sit on a different seat. If what do you eat every day? Is it jump out of bed, make coffee? So jump out of bed, go do yoga or have tea. Just challenge yourself. You've probably forgotten to observe the skyline of the space that you live in, the city that you live in. That's probably very beautiful, but you don't see it anymore because you're so focused on here. So we're just about it. We're in the last moments of our time together. And what would you like to wrap up with your message, Nancy? I'd like to just say to people that, be conscious of your words, be conscious of people's reactions to what it is you're talking about. And don't fall into that pity party, because it's going to keep you down, and you're meant for more. And I look forward to the next time that we get to be together. We're looking forward to what's happening to blondes in our bombshells, because I think we're not your typical blondes. We've got a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of experiences, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Nancy.
I wanted to say that if you always really think about what you say and how it's going to affect people, and is it going to improve their life, or is it going to improve your life? Is it something you truly want to manifest, and is it going to be something wise to say? Just be thoughtful, speak from the heart, speak with integrity. And I really think in that way we can make our world so much better and fill our lives with happiness and joy, and really try to avoid claiming negative things. And like many years ago, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. Well, I never say I have. I always say I was diagnosed with that. So you can say what's true, but you can transform it. And as I have never had surgery and never done the brace or anything, and I feel like I have helped my body heal from things by focusing on the positive thing and what we can do. And I guess that's just use your words wisely and speak with love. And I know you have a free download to offer everyone, which I think is very exciting.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So I'll post it there, and it's the power in your name. So it'll help you to understand more. So thank you so much for saying that, Nancy. I would have been sad to not remind them of that.
I think your work is magnificent, and it's so nice that you're able to share that with our listeners. And I would love for y'all to like our video and to subscribe to our channel and join us and watch us evolve. Friends. We are ever evolving.
Okay. Bye from Canada. This is Laurel.
And adios from Costa Rica.